When climbing is part of your job, it is essential that you are thoroughly familiar with the tool vital to your safety, namely the rope. This rope is your working tool, and like all tools, you must know how it works to derive the best possible use from it. You must know how to handle it on site and maintain it. Take a step back, or rather see things from a height whilst viewing this tape. Your safety starts here. The rope is PPE, personal protective equipment, as opposed to collective protection equipment such as scaffolding and nets. It's an individual item which safeguards a person from a risk to his or her safety. There are three categories of PPE. Category 1, minor risks, small mechanical impacts and the rays of the sun. Category 2, serious risks. And Category 3, major risks to the user. The rope comes under PPE Category 3, as do all harnesses and their accessories which connect the person to the structure. The rope could be compared with a bulletproof vest or a diving pressure-reducing valve, failure of which could lead to death. One can therefore understand the importance of its correct use. The rope comprises two elements: the protective sheath, the surround, which protects the rope from abrasion, and the core, the content, which ensures 70% of its resistance to breaking. A safety rope always consists of a core and a protective sheath. There are different types of rope. Dynamic ropes, which are designed for climbing and mountaineering. Dynamic ropes may have to be used in certain conditions when working at height, such as when lead climbing. Then, there are semi-static ropes ranging in diameter from 9 to 16 millimeters, which are designed for potholing, canyoning, or working at height. There are two types of semi-static rope. Type A rope, braided sheathed ropes with a small coefficient of elongation for general use by people having to gain access by rope for all types of handling and restraint at the place of work, for life-saving and potholing. Type B rope, braided sheathed ropes with a small coefficient of elongation whose performance is less than that expected of the A-type ropes and which require far greater attention during use. The ropes are made from polyamide, more generally referred to as a nylon. The semi-static ropes, consisting of a core and protective sheath, are braided. The printed tape which identifies a product is incorporated during the braiding process. This tape indicates the type of rope, the year of manufacture, the standard number and the manufacturer's name. A manual and visual quality inspection is carried out at Beal while the rope is being wound up. This is one of Beal's plus points. Each end of the rope has a label showing the information: the name of the producer, CE and number of the inspection organization checking the quality system, EN 1891, type A or B, and the diameter. Beal ropes are designed to work from minus 50 degrees Celsius to plus 80 degrees Celsius. All safety ropes must comply with European standards. These specify certain properties for each rope. Beal is actively involved in drawing up these standards by applying its know-how and experience. Moreover, Beal has been awarded its ISO 9002 certificate, which guarantees the quality and uniformity of its products to the user. The standard governing the semi-static ropes is EN 1891. The following specify the requirements of standard EN 1891. Here are the requirements for Type A and Type B ropes: a braking load of 2,200 kilograms minimum, a core resistance from 8 to 1,500 kilograms for 3 minutes, 5 successive drops factor 1 with a 100 kilogram weight. An impact force less than 600 DAN as factor 0.3. An elongation of less than 5% between 50 and 150 kilograms. A core volume of 50% minimum and 70% maximum. A standard rope will be marked with the CE mark followed by EN 1891. All these standard requirements may be quite reassuring, but always remember the one and only rule: never climb above the anchoring point. A rope which successfully passed the tests of the standard will, unfortunately, never pass that of your carelessness. Even if falling is not allowed, you can put yourself in danger in certain situations. Knowledge of fall factors allows you to understand your situation better and to be prepared to avoid all excessive hazards. The fall factor is the value which defines the hardness of a fall. Fall factor is calculated by dividing the length of the fall by the length of the rope available to arrest it. In the first instance, the technician climbs to 2 meters below the anchor point. The rope is 3 meters long. The technician falls. The fall factor will be 1 meter fall divided by 3 meter rope, therefore a fall factor 1/3 equals 0.34. A semi-static rope can absorb this factor, but this is around the maximum for the human body on this type of rope. In the second example, the technician is at the height of the anchor point. The rope is 2 meters long. He falls. The fall factor will be 2 meters fall divided by 2 meter rope length, therefore a fall factor of 1 divided by 1 equals 1. This is the maximum fall factor for semi-static rope to withstand, but likely to cause damage to the human body. In the third example, the technician is above the anchor point. The rope measures 2 meters. The technician falls. The fall factor will be 4 meter fall divided by 2 meters of rope. 4 divided by 2 equals 2. This is a critical factor for the technician and the rope because the shock load to be absorbed will be too large. There will be danger of death. Note well that a fall factor 2 can be reached with a simple fall of 1 meter on a 50 centimeter length of rope. Remember this: in all cases where you are below the anchor point, the fall factor will be lower than 1. When you're above the anchor point, the factor will be equal to 1. When you pass above the anchor point, the fall factor will become greater than 1 and you will put yourself in danger of death. In all instances, you must understand that falling is not permissible because even if the rope holds, your body may not. All Bayal ropes are supplied with detailed explanatory instructions. Follow the advice given and you will avoid a good number of problems. But never forget the golden rule, which is to keep safety uppermost in your mind. One frequently tends to skim over these instructions, but bear in mind that the rope is a working tool and you must be fully familiar with it. Do not forget that this is PPE Class 3, the same type as a bulletproof vest or diving pressure reducing valve. The instructions include a space on the right hand for you to complete the following 6 points: the name, diameter and type of rope, the length, EN 1891 standard, CE approval, batch number and year. The inside of the instructions is broken down into various points: instructions for use, the meaning of the marks and warnings, rope performance. Two people are required to unwind the rope, whether it is wound on a reel or in a hank. To unwind a reel, the first person must pass a tube through the inside of the reel, whilst the other unwinds the rope and lets it fall in a pile. From this point onwards, it is essential that the rope is never hoisted, but always kept in a bundle. If the rope is raised, this automatically leads to twisting. To unwind the rope from a hank, remove the straps by hand and never use a cutter or pair of scissors. Bayal straps have been designed with this in mind. One person puts his hand and arm inside the hank, whilst the other unwinds and lays the rope on the ground. Before use, it's necessary to shrink the rope in order to find the real working length. The best way to do this is to soak the rope while still on the reel and then let it dry slowly on the bobbin. This way stiffens it less. The ropes are frequently supplied on very long reels. It may sometimes be necessary to cut the rope. This is quite a tricky operation. A piece of advice: a rope is not measured with a tape measure. Always proceed by doubling the rope over. For example, you have a rope of 200 meters. To have 2 times 100 meters, join the rope ends and cut in the middle. When you require a length of 60 meters and 40 meters, measure 10 meters and multiply by 6. Make a mark on the strap to be cut, but do not cut. Check that there are, in fact, 40 meters left. If this is the case, cut your rope at the mark. In order to limit tension at the time of measuring, the rope must be loose on the ground and not on the reel. Proceed with hot cutting and finishing. Fit a new adhesive label bearing all the information found on the original adhesive label. Photocopy the instructions and place these with the new rope. If the rope has no termination, it will be necessary to make one. To do this, proceed with a knot in the form of a figure 8 and protect with a heat-shrunk sheath. Bayal provides ropes with sewn ends. This innovation, which is patented by Petzl, will provide you with even greater safety. Before packing the rope, tie a knot in the bottom end. Finally, the rope can be stored. It is stored in the bag provided for this purpose. The rope must never be lifted again, so as to prevent twisting. This form of stowage will allow you to handle the rope properly during a descent, thus avoiding knots or kinks. Put a photocopy of the user instructions inside the bag with the new rope. When using a safety rope, you must, as a matter of course, protect it so as to prevent any wear on the cutting edges. There are several ways of doing this. A piece of carpet, fire hose, rope protector. Paradoxically, the rope may sometimes form part of the personal protective equipment used collectively. In fact, the owner of the rope, in other words, the person who purchased it, is not always the user, and, depending on the site, the rope may be used by several employees. This concept of sharing Class 3 equipment must make you fully aware of the necessity to carry out a precise check throughout the entire useful life of the rope. To do this, the purchaser must draw up a PPE record which must be followed to the letter. The following must be indicated: the date of purchase, the place of purchase, date of first use, the model, type and batch number, the users, any incidents which may have damaged the rope. After each use, an inspection is mandatory. Together with the record sheet, Bayal will also provide an inspection sheet summarizing the essential points to be checked during the automatic inspection. First, proceed with a visual inspection while referring to the inspection card. Control of the length of the rope. Check the state of the sheath. Cuts. The state of wear, for burns and traces of dangerous chemical products. Then proceed with a manual check. A check by hand of the core, i.e. hard point, soft point and angle marked. Check the stitching of the sewn ends, cut, torn, distended or worn strands. Check the cores for firmness and wear. If there is the slightest doubt apart from the length concerning any one of these checks, do not use the rope. The rope must be stored at ambient temperature away from ultraviolet light, ideally inside a bag provided for this purpose. Avoid excessive temperatures such as plus 80 degrees Celsius, which may occur behind the windscreen of a car. Warning, some storage conditions may damage the rope fibers, thereby making the rope dangerous to use. A rope must not come into contact with chemical agents, especially acids, oils and petrol, which can destroy the fibers without this being visible. As regards paints and cleaning agents, tests will have to be carried out on a case-by-case basis. To clean the rope, use water at a maximum temperature of 30 degrees Celsius and a non-aggressive detergent such as flaked household soap. If washing in the machine, slide the rope into a pillowcase and wash at less than 30 degrees Celsius on gentle wash. Drying must be done outside, for example by hanging on a line, avoiding excessive exposure to the sun, UVs. Information on the useful life of the rope is indicated in the instructions. Intensive use, 3 months to a year. Regular use, 2 to 3 years. Occasional use, 4 to 5 years. However, always bear in mind, right from the outset, that if the rope is used improperly, it could deteriorate beyond repair and even break. The rope must be discarded in any of the following cases. If it has suffered a drop, if the core is damaged, if the sheath is damaged, if it was in contact with chemical products. As this tape points out, your work is controlled by rules, procedures and equipment which are validated and tested to correspond to precise usage conditions. If you neglect these conditions, you put yourself in danger. Thorough knowledge of the rope which you use every day is fundamental. For this reason, Bayal includes user information with all its security ropes. Read it. You should understand that the best safeguard against risk is your ability to develop a security consciousness, not only through knowledge of your work tools, but above all by respecting the absolute rule that you should never put yourself in a position where a fall could result in a fall factor greater than 1/3.